Well, hello. As most of you know, I'm currently on vacation for about a week, and one of the things I usually do is when I'm maybe a week before I'm done with work. You never know exactly when you're going to finish, but when I think I'm starting to get close, I'll usually go. I'll usually get paid, and I'll usually spend maybe $100 on books. Sometimes I'll get them only at the Mises Institute. I do use Amazon quite a bit, and usually what that means is by the time I come home, they'll pretty much all be there waiting for me. It's always a nice homecoming to have stuff like that, or maybe I'll buy gold or silver or whatever. So one of the books I bought, I put books on my Amazon wish list, and I mean a lot of them sit there for years. I have the list. I've had the list probably for 6 or 7 years now, and some of the books have been there that long, and sometimes I forget some of the details as to why I initially wanted them or whatever. But I don't even remember where. Somehow I was hearing somebody talking about Reconstruction in Germany after World War II, and they referenced the fact that the American government basically explicitly had the policy of re-educating the Germans and indoctrinating them to be guilt-ridden and to feel extremely bad about World War II. Now, there's nothing unusual about the government using schooling to indoctrinate people. That's the whole point. But it is an interesting, dereliction, because normally indoctrination is going to be nationalistic, and this is actually a case where there was imposed anti-nationalism, at least certainly. And this seems to have been extremely effective, because today, at least among Western Germans, obviously because Eastern Germans didn't receive this indoctrination, they received a different kind of indoctrination, which I would say is probably even worse. This still exists, and I have friends in Germany, and sometimes when I talk to them about World War II, which is interesting because a lot of times they don't know a lot about it, they're reluctant to talk about it. I mean, I remember telling them that I've read Mein Kampf, and they just can't believe it. Apparently it's legal to read there, but it's illegal to buy or sell. It's a really taboo subject. I remember one of them telling me one time that he was glad the United States won the war, and although we might make an argument that maybe Hitler was worse than Roosevelt, that was a really bad affair all the way around, and I'm definitely an advocate of the United States never having been involved. Now, Hitler declared war on the United States for reasons that are actually still a mystery. I mean, we can speculate, but no one really actually knows. And anyway, so one of the books I bought was this. I've heard that this is basically the only book on the subject, and I've forgotten when I ordered it that it is apparently in German. And I can read German, but I don't understand it really. So this will be a project that I'm going to have to wait until I'm comfortable reading German. But that is the title and the subtitle by that's blurry. It's too blurry. I don't know why it's not focusing. Erwerter Neugsgabe. I probably got this reference from Philip Vegas, but I'm not positive. Anyway, this got me thinking, and forgive the collectivistic, nationalistic tendencies that are going to come out when I'm about to say. I am a methodological individualist and whatever, and I'm not a nationalist, but Germans really piss me off a lot, and they always have for years and years. Not every German. Obviously, I just said I have German friends, but to give you an idea, to sum up my aversion, if you ever watch Band of Brothers, in one of the last episodes, the war is definitely almost over. It hasn't formally ended, but there's not a lot of fighting, and there's a scene where the Americans are driving and all they're riding in trucks, GM trucks, on one highway, and there's like 3 lanes on the Autobahn, and on the 2 roads there's all these American tanks and cars, and in the medium there's hundreds of thousands of German prisoners walking the other way. And one of the characters, I don't remember his name, they're all riding, they're happy that they're riding, he just suddenly gets really pissed and he starts yelling at the Germans, and he's like, what were you thinking? You have horses, we have cars. alluding to the fact that who they think was going to win the war. This was a huge way. This was a predictable outcome, and we all had to suffer a lot. And then he calls them servile scum. There's problems with the things that he said. I mean, when the war started, Germany wasn't. They were invading Poland. There was no reason at the beginning to necessarily assume the war would be as long or as terrible as they thought. But I do think the Germans seem more servile than average. They certainly seem more servile than most of the Americans. And I almost try and prove myself wrong, and I'll go on YouTube videos that I know Germans watch, either because they're about Germans or it has a German title. For instance, there's a YouTube user called Alex and Jim where they do Germany versus USA. They don't make that many videos, but they have both will watch. And I'll post things about how fascist I think Germans are. And of course they'll, oh, you stupid Yank and whatever. Listen, I mean, I guess they say people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, but there are some real differences. Because then I'll come out and they'll say, what's your basis for saying Germans are fascist? And I'll say things, well, they don't accept free speech, they don't accept free education, they don't accept gun ownership. You know, what gets me is when I'll say that, they won't deny it, and they'll defend being against free speech, and they'll defend being against free education. I mean, free speech. I'll say, you know, you're against free speech, and sometimes they'll deny it, but I say, so I can give a Nazi speech, I can read Mein Kampf, I can say anti-homosexual things or anti-religious things, anti-Muslim things, anti-immigrant. No, we're against that. That's hate speech, and you shouldn't be allowed to do that, and the state should be able to throw you in prison. So they defend it. With education, homeschooling is completely illegal there. They persecute anyone who attempts it, which I mean, another mark against them is very few people even attempt to do it. And the persecution of the homeschoolers is always defended. I've never had anyone come and say, yeah, you're right, we should allow homeschooling. No. The state owns German children, and the people in Germany love it, and they defend it. They're just like bootlicking slaves. The servile, just like he said in the Band of Brothers, servile, bootlicking scum. Obviously guns, even though Germany actually, I think they're in the top 5, at the very least the top 10 per capita gun ownership. It's mostly because of the Wehrmacht and Eastern Germany just had huge stockpiles, and it's kind of, I mean, I have a friend told me one time that they estimate something like 20 million guns are just unaccounted for that are there. But oh yeah, you wild cowboy Americans, and basically they have a love of and subservience to Leviathan. Now, America has Leviathan too, and we have socialists, and we have big problems. And I'm not one to say American people are like all libertarians, because they're not, and no one knows that as well as I do at being a libertarian here. But there are definitely differences. Telling Americans that they should be able to homeschool their own kids, that's not a hard sell. That's not a hard sell. That's not a hard sell for liberals. It's not a hard sell for conservatives. It's not a hard sell for atheists, for anybody. It's an easy sell. Now, saying we should abolish all public schools, that's a hard sell. But if you say, well, I don't like public schools, I'd like to homeschool my kids, easy sell. No problem. Free speech, no problem. No, there's so few people who are actually even against hate, that would even favor hate speech. It's minuscule. You know, gun ownership is popular. It's becoming more popular. The arguments that I could make in America with an American, it's so much easier. You know, you just say, hey, you have a right to defend yourself. Oh, that's it. Germany, no, whoa, what do you mean yourself? You don't own yourself. You have a right to be protected, which means the government can owns you. I mean, and this is to make this a broader point. You know, people who say that a free society or whatever, we're not evolved enough. Clearly, there are differences right now between the various societies on Earth in terms of their amenability to libertarian ideology. And at least as far as Western Europeans go, Americans are way out in front. Now there might be some others like Kyrgyz or maybe some tribes people in Chile or something that have us beat. That's definitely possible, but I can't help this. I'm a little conflicted because it seems like it's anecdotal, but there just seems to be really big difference. Like if I was a libertarian in Germany, and I have talked to my libertarian friends in Germany, and they will confirm this, I have to carry a lot less water trying to convince people here than I do there. And one of them was telling me he wanted to go meet some other libertarians, so he had to get in a train and go for 4 hours to Berlin because they were having an annual conference or whatever. It's a big difference. Now I think it's hard since the differences are qualitative. It's really hard to really assess them. Like height, that's easy. There's statistics going the average height of an American and a German and a Dutchman going back hundreds of years, at least 100 years. How amenable they are to the various libertarian ideologies is, polls is almost the best we can do, and that's a very, very poor methodology. It's very, very inexact, and you can't derive a lot of causation. The other reason I'm pointing this out is, for me, one of the most interesting things is to try and identify what are the causal factors, if any, exist. Because if I can, I want to know, because if I can figure out what they are, then that's, like, if we know what makes people more libertarian, whether it's somehow genetic or if there's some kind of sociological mix that makes it happen, I want to know what it is, because I want to try and cultivate it as much as possible. Now, I've made videos before, although when I made them I think I probably had 10 subscribers where I talked about this. I think there are clearly, with the case of the United States, because of the fact that all the Europeans are immigrants, there's some speculative causes we can think about. I don't think I can prove them. I'm not even sure if they can be proved, but there are differences. Oh, and before anyone gets too racist or whatever, I am mostly German. Most of my ancestors are German. My name is German. My last name anyway. My first name's obviously biblical, but on both sides of my family, the majority is German. There's a lot of English in there too, but mostly German. But I don't speak German, at least not very well, and not well enough to read a book like that anyway. I'm still a methodological individualist, but I'm really leaning towards the idea that all the libertarian Germans moved to America a long time ago and had kids with all the libertarian Englishmen who left England, and all the libertarian Irishmen who left Ireland, and all the libertarian Dutchmen who left Holland, and they had a whole bunch of libertarian mutts. And the bottom line, and then of course that's going to be a more libertarian society than the host society, and I think that's the basis of my theory there. So don't take us too much like I hate Germans that much, but yeah, the society is so servile to me. It grates me horribly. I want to go there and wear my "Don't Tread on Me" shirt, and I've got some good gun control shirts with Hitler on them. It's illegal. It's illegal in Germany to wear Hitler memorabilia like that. Even though the stuff I have is actually put out by a Jewish organization, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, it would still be illegal. I just want to go and so I guess it really bugs me, and obviously this applies to other Europeans. It's just Englishmen, Frenchmen. It's harder for me to tell because there's a bigger language barrier. Maybe not the Irish, I guess. I'm not sure though. Poles seem to be coming along though. So, yeah, the German society, and more generally European society, disgusts me greatly. That's not to say American society is perfect. Obviously not. But I just thought I'd vent a little bit and introduce some of my thoughts on maybe where libertarianism comes from, and also I think it's hopeful because I don't think it's something that requires evolution. There's clearly something that differentiates it between societies today, and that's probably not evolutionary. So, all right, there we go. Auf Wiedersehen.